Orbit of the fallen Starborn. The universe had always whispered of legends, stories of beings born from starlight itself. They were called the Starborn, radiant travelers who drifted between galaxies like sparks carried by cosmic winds. But no one on the planet Aurellia believed such stories anymore. They had become myths told to children, bedtime tales of shining guardians who once shaped constellations with their hands. Yet on the quiet outskirts of Aurelia's largest desert, a new story was about to begin. It started not with glory, but with a fall. The night sky trembled. A single bright streak tore across the heavens, burning through clouds, carving a glowing line that lit up the dark lands. People in distant villages stopped what they were doing and looked up in awe. A star seemed to be descending, no, crashing, down toward the sands. In the desert, a young girl named Lyra stood with wide eyes. She had been gathering water at night, when the heat was bearable, and now she watched as the sky split open. The falling star drew closer and closer, until the ground shook beneath her feet. The blast of impact threw sand into the air, and her ears rang as the booming echo rolled into the horizon. Silence followed. The wind paused, as if the world itself were waiting. Lyra hesitated only for a heartbeat. Her curiosity had always been stronger than her fear, and tonight was no different. She wrapped her scarf tighter to keep the sand away and began walking toward the source of the crash. Every step felt like stepping into a moment that did not belong to ordinary people. The crater ahead glowed with a pale blue light. When she reached the edge, her breath caught in her throat. Inside the crater lay a figure, not a meteor, not a piece of metal, but a person. He was faintly glowing, like embers fading after a long burn. His skin shimmered with cracks of silver light, and his hair looked like strands of night sky scattered with stardust. His eyes remained closed, and he did not move. Lyra whispered to herself, "A Starborn." Her heart raced. She had heard stories of these celestial beings, how they drifted between worlds, how they could create constellations or collapse dying suns. But she had also heard of the fallen ones, the Starborn who lost their power and fell from the sky, never to rise again. She slid carefully down into the crater. The air felt strangely warm, humming with energy that made her skin tingle. The fallen figure's chest rose and fell slowly. He was alive, barely. Lyra knelt beside him, unsure what to do. "Can you hear me?" she whispered. To her surprise, his eyes fluttered open. They glowed with a deep silver blue light, like the core of a newborn star. He looked confused, dazed, and weak. Where am I?" he murmured, his voice soft but echoing slightly, as if carrying the faintest vibration of cosmic resonance. "You're on Aurellia," Lyra said gently. "You fell from the sky." He closed his eyes again, trying to remember. "I fell because I was cast out." Lyra stiffened. "Cast out? By who?" He opened his eyes again, and for a moment, the desert reflected in them looked fragile. "By my own kind. The Starborn Council. They stripped my core, my power. I am no longer what I was." Lyra swallowed. She knew nothing of cosmic councils, but she understood pain. The Starborn looked lost, like a child waking from a nightmare. "What's your name?" she asked softly. He hesitated before answering. "Kale." Lyra helped him sit up, though his movements were slow. Every time he shifted, small sparks of pale starlight drifted from his skin and faded into the air like dying fireflies. "You're hurt," she said. "You need shelter. My village is not far." Kale shook his head weakly. "If your people see me, they may fear me. A fallen Starborn brings misfortune." Lyra tilted her head. "You fell near me. Maybe that means something. Maybe it's not misfortune. Maybe it's a sign." He looked at her, puzzled. People rarely spoke to him like that, at least, not in the world he came from. Before they could speak further, a deep rumble traveled through the ground. Lyra froze. Kale's dimming glow flickered. "That energy," Kale whispered, glancing toward the horizon. "Something is coming." Dark clouds began forming where moments ago the sky had been clear. Strange lights shimmered inside them, red, sharp, unnatural. Lyra felt a chill. "A storm?" Kale shook his head. "Not a storm, a hunter." Lyra blinked. "What do you mean, hunter?" But before he could finish, the sky cracked with another explosion of light. Kale's expression hardened. For a moment, the weakness faded and something fierce flashed behind his eyes, a spark of the power he once had. "They found me," he whispered. "The Starborn hunters." Lyra stepped back in fear. She didn't know what Starborn hunters were, but the way Kale said those words made her heart pound. Kale reached out and grabbed her arm. We must leave. Now. But you're too weak to move fast, she protested. Kale looked up at her, determination rising from somewhere deep inside him. Then help me run. Lyra nodded firmly. She helped him stand, though he staggered. Together, they climbed out of the glowing crater just as the clouds above burst open with a harsh beam of red light that struck the sand where Kale had lain moments earlier. The desert shook again. Something had entered Aurelia's sky chasing the fallen Starborn. And Lyra knew, as she struggled to support Kale's weight, that her life would never be normal again. The sands behind Lyra and Kale erupted again as another beam of red light carved a deep scar into the desert floor. Lyra flinched and shielded Kale with her arms, though he was much taller than her. Heat washed over them, and the air shimmered with sharp energy that made the hairs on Lyra's arms rise. Kale grimaced. They've deployed a sentinel beam. That means more are coming. Lyra didn't fully understand, but she knew three important things. Kale was weak. Something powerful was hunting him. And she was now tangled in whatever fate followed this fallen being. She tightened her grip around his arm. We have to keep moving. They stumbled across the desert, Kale leaning heavily against her, every step a struggle. His glow flickered like a candle fighting against wind. Lyra kept glancing back at the crater. The red clouds churned above it, restless and angry, as if sniffing for Kale's presence. Why are they hunting you? Lyra asked breathlessly. Kale's voice was strained, yet calm. Because I broke a law. A law older than this world. What law? He hesitated. I touched something forbidden. A dying star, one that held a secret the council wanted erased. Lyra frowned. Why would a star hold a secret? Kale almost smiled, though it was faint. Stars are older than we can imagine. They remember everything. But before she could ask more, a sharp whistle sliced through the air. Kale pushed Lyra down just as a crystal shard of bright red energy streaked past them and exploded against a dune. Sand erupted like a fountain. A figure descended from the swirling clouds above, riding a disk of crackling red light. Their armor shimmered like molten metal, and their eyes glowed a hard crimson. Lyra gasped. Is that? Yes, Kale whispered. A Starborn hunter. The hunter landed with a crushing impact that sent shockwaves rippling through the sand. Their voice echoed harshly. Kale of the Silver Core, they called. By will of the council, you are sentenced to extinguishment. Lyra shivered. The word extinguishment was worse than death. It meant erasing someone's existence. Kale stepped in front of her despite his weakness. I have no power left. You don't need your weapons. Let her go. The hunter ignored her entirely. They raised a long spear-like weapon, the tip glowing a fierce red. You carry a fragment of the Forbidden Star, the hunter said. It must be retrieved. Kale's hand instinctively went to his chest. Lyra noticed a faint silver glow under his skin. Before the hunter could strike, Lyra moved without thinking. She grabbed a handful of sand and flung it at the hunter's glowing eyes. It barely worked, but it was enough. The hunter staggered half a step back, not in pain, but in surprise. Kale seized the moment. Run! Lyra grabbed his arm and pulled. Kale stumbled, dragged more than running, but they moved fast enough. The hunter roared and launched another shard of energy, but it struck a dune and detonated harmlessly behind them. Why did you do that? Kale gasped as they ran. Why protect me? Lyra didn't look back. Because you're alive. And someone alive shouldn't be hunted like that. Kale stared at her in disbelief. No one from his realm ever dared defy the hunters. They were forces of cosmic law, feared even by the most powerful Starborn. But this small desert girl, she had thrown sand in a hunter's face. The ground ahead sloped downward into a canyon. Lyra pulled Kale toward it. This way. It's harder to track us below the cliffs. Kale nodded weakly, and together they descended into the shadows of the rocky gorge. The air was cooler here, and the roar of distant winds echoed between stone walls. As soon as they reached a narrow bend, Kale collapsed to his knees. Lyra immediately knelt beside him. Kale! He breathed heavily, his glow dimming further. The hunters use null energy. It interrupts what little power I have left. She touched his shoulder gently. What do you need? He looked at her with fading eyes. Starlight. Even a small amount. She frowned. I don't have starlight.
Kale shook his head. Not the sky.
Something that contains memory, something old, something born when this world was young.
Lyra thought hard. Then her eyes widened. I know something. My village, we keep an old relic. A crystal stone.
Elders say it came from the sky ages ago.
Kale's breath caught.
A sky relic, it might help me regain strength. Lyra stood up, determination lighting her face. Then we're getting it.
Kale tried to rise but couldn't.
I can move, but slowly.
Lyra shook her head. No. We'll rest here until you can stand again. And we'll move at night.
Kale looked at her, truly seeing her for the first time. A human girl with dust in her hair, tired eyes, and courage that didn't make sense. You're helping someone you barely know, he said softly.
Lyra smiled slightly.
Maybe you fell here for a reason. Kale said nothing, but a faint warmth passed through his chest. A warmth he hadn't felt in ages. Above them, the sky rumbled again. The hunters were still searching. Lyra looked up at the storm of red light gathering in the distance and whispered, "We don't have much time." Night settled over the canyon, filling its narrow passages with shadows deep enough to hide an army. Lyra had built a small shelter beneath a rock overhang where the wind couldn't reach them. Kale rested against the canyon wall, still weak, his silver-blue glow so faint that he almost looked human in the darkness. Lyra quietly prepared a small fire. Small enough to stay concealed, large enough to warm Kale, who seemed cold despite the desert heat.
She studied him as he rested. His features were unusual, not like any person she had ever seen. His skin held faint patterns, like tiny constellations flowing beneath the surface. His hair still glittered as though starlight was trapped in each strand. But now, all that brilliance seemed drained. Kale opened his eyes slowly. "You shouldn't use fire," he murmured.
"The hunters may sense the heat."
Lyra shook her head.
"This canyon is filled with heat from the rocks. They won't notice a little more."
Kale smiled faintly.
"You're not afraid of them."
"I am," Lyra answered honestly.
"But fear doesn't help us get out of this."
Kale nodded, impressed.
Humans, he thought, were always full of contradictions, fragile, yet fierce in strange ways. After a long moment, Lyra cleared her throat. "Kale, tell me what happened. Why did they cast you out?" Kale lowered his gaze, ashamed. "Among the Starborn, our power comes from our cores, shards of ancient starlight given to us at birth. Mine was strong, stronger than most. I was chosen to study the last star, a dying sun on the edge of the universe." He paused. "I believed it held knowledge we had long forgotten." "What kind of knowledge?" Lyra asked. Kale closed his eyes. "A memory. A secret the Starborn Council feared." Lyra leaned closer. "Feared what?" "That we were not the first," his voice softened to a whisper. "That another race came before us. A race older, brighter, and that they fell. My studies revealed traces of their collapse. The Council wanted that truth destroyed." Lyra frowned. "Why hide the truth?" "Power," Kale said simply. "The Council believes our people must see themselves as eternal. Invincible. If they learned we were not the first, their fear would destroy us. Curiosity is forbidden if it leads to forbidden truths." Lyra shook her head. "That's not fair." "Maybe not," Kale replied softly. "But the universe does not bend to fairness." Lyra hesitated, then asked the question that had been forming in her mind since he fell. "What did you do?" Kale's voice trembled. "I saved a fragment of the last star's memory. I hid it in my core. When the Council discovered this, they declared me a traitor. They shattered my core and cast me out." Lyra felt her heart squeeze. "But, if your core was shattered, how are you still alive?" Kale touched his chest gently. "A small piece remains. Just enough to cling to existence. But without starlight to sustain it. I will fade." Silence wrapped around them, heavy and painful. After some time, Lyra said, "We'll get the relic from my village. It might help restore you." Kale looked at her with quiet gratitude. "You should leave me here and go on your own. The hunters want me, not you. If they find us together." "I'm not leaving you," Lyra said sharply. "If they come, I'll deal with them." Kale watched her, stunned by her resolve. Humans were not supposed to involve themselves in cosmic affairs. And yet she had thrown sand at a hunter, defied cosmic law, and chosen to protect a fallen Starborn.
Why? Kale asked quietly.
Why risk yourself for me? Lyra looked at the flickering fire. Because I don't want to live in a universe where we leave people behind.
Kale swallowed hard.
He had seen worlds burn and stars collapse, but never had he met someone who spoke with such simple, powerful sincerity.
Before he could respond, a tremor ran through the canyon floor. Kale stiffened. They are close, he whispered.
Lyra quickly extinguished the fire, smothering the flames with sand. The warmth disappeared instantly, replaced by cold fear. Above them, a deep, resonant hum shook the air. A beam of red light scanned across the canyon walls like an enormous eye searching for prey.
Kale grabbed Lyra's arm.
Stay still. The red light swept across the canyon floor, passed over stones, shadows, and then hovered dangerously close to their hiding place.
Lyra held her breath. The light paused.
A high-pitched whine built in the sky.
Kale tensed.
They found us. The beam shot downward, blasting the canyon floor and sending a cloud of debris into the air.
Rocks tumbled.
The ground split beneath them. Lyra screamed as the ledge collapsed. She tumbled downward, grabbing at anything to stop her fall. Kale reached for her, his face twisting in panic. Lyra.
She crashed onto a lower ledge. Pain shot through her side.
Kale landed beside her, barely able to breathe. Above them, the red clouds swirled and a hunter descended, spear glowing like liquid fire.
You cannot hide, the hunter declared.
Kale, surrender the fragment. Kale stood shakily, shielding Lyra with his body. I will never let you take it.
The hunter pointed the spear at his chest.
Then die.
Lyra scrambled up despite the pain.
No. The hunter swung the spear. A blinding flash of silver light burst from Kale's chest, throwing the hunter backward. Kale stared down at his hands, stunned. The glow pulsing from his body was brighter than anything he had shown before.
Lyra gasped.
Kale, your power, it's coming back. Kale shook his head in disbelief.
No, this isn't my power. He placed a trembling hand over his heart. It's the fragment.
It's waking.
The hunter struggled to rise.
Impossible. That fragment was dying.
Kale's eyes shone with fierce light.
Stars do not die quietly. The canyon floor shook.
Wind howled.
Silver energy erupted from Kale like a small supernova. Lyra shielded her eyes, barely able to stay standing. The hunter retreated quickly, riding upward into the storm of red clouds. Kale collapsed to his knees, panting. The light faded as quickly as it had appeared.
Lyra rushed to him. Kale.
Are you okay?
He nodded weakly. The fragment is reacting to something.
Something near, something strong.
Lyra's heart pounded.
The relic. Kale looked at her with urgency. We must reach your village before the hunters return. The relic may be our only hope.
He struggled to stand. Lyra supported him.
Above them, the sky churned with red storms gathering once more. And somewhere in the distance, an ancient relic waited, holding secrets older than the Starborn themselves. The canyon walls narrowed as Lyra guided Kale through a winding path only she knew. Her father had shown her this secret route when she was young, a hidden trail carved by ancient floods, forgotten by most travelers. It led directly toward her village, bypassing the open desert where the hunters could easily spot them. Kale moved slowly, leaning on the rock walls for support. Every spark of silver light he had shown earlier had faded again, leaving him more exhausted than before. Lyra kept one hand ready to catch him in case he stumbled.
Are you in pain? She asked gently.
Kale shook his head, though sweat beaded along his brow. Not pain, it feels like something is waking inside me. The fragment, it's growing heavier. Heavier?
Lyra echoed.
Is that bad?
I don't know, Kale admitted. It should not even be alive.
A dying star's memory should fade, not stir.
Lyra frowned.
Maybe it sensed danger.
Kale considered that. Stars do react to cosmic threats.
But this one, he looked troubled. This one is reacting to you. Lyra blinked in surprise.
Me?
Why would it react to me? Kale tried to speak, but he stumbled, gripping his chest tightly. Lyra rushed to support him, alarmed. Kale! He steadied himself, breathing hard. When you touched me earlier, the fragment brightened. It recognized something in you. Lyra opened her mouth to question him, but a distant rumble cut her off. Kale's expression tightened. Hunters. They are scanning again. The sky overhead flashed red, even though the canyon roof blocked most of the view. Lyra pulled Kale deeper into the shadows. "We're close to the exit," she whispered. "Once we reach the dunes, my village won't be far." Kale nodded gratefully. After nearly an hour of weaving through narrow passages, they stepped out into open desert again, where the dunes stretched like rolling waves under the night sky. The moon hung low, soft and pale, casting a silver glow across the sand. Kale paused, staring up at it. "That moon," he murmured. "It reminds me of a place I once knew." Lyra gave him a small smile. "You can tell me about it later. Right now, we need to hurry." She led him across the sand, her feet moving confidently through terrain she had known all her life. The village lights twinkled faintly in the distance, small warm dots of safety. But safety was never simple. As they approached the outer dunes, Kale suddenly stiffened. "Lyra, stop." She froze. "What is it?" Kale's eyes narrowed. "Someone is watching us." Lyra scanned the dunes nervously. The wind blew soft waves across the sand, but she saw no movement. "Are you sure?" she whispered. Kale nodded. "There. Beyond that dune." He pointed toward a shadowed slope. Before Lyra could respond, a figure rose slowly from the sand, cloak fluttering in the wind, face hidden under a hood. They held no weapons, yet their presence felt heavy, like ancient stone. Lyra's breath caught. "Who is that?" Kale's voice dropped to a whisper. "Not a hunter, but not human either." The figure approached quietly, each step leaving shimmering footprints in the sand. When they spoke, their voice was soft, layered with echoes. "Kale of the Silver Core, you have fallen far." Kale's eyes widened in recognition. "No, it can't be." Lyra stepped back, uneasy. "Kale? Who is this?" The hooded figure lifted their head just enough for moonlight to reveal a faint glow, golden instead of silver or red. Kale whispered a name with disbelief. "Seren." Seren inclined their head. "You remember me. Why are you here?" Kale demanded. "Are you with the council?" Seren shook their head. "I no longer serve the council. I left when they cast you out." Lyra blinked in surprise. "You left because of Kale?" Seren turned their glowing golden eyes toward her. "Kale was once my closest friend. When they shattered his core, I knew the council's judgment was tainted." Kale looked overwhelmed. "Seren, why search for me?" "To help you," Seren said softly. "Before the hunters erase what remains of you." Lyra stepped protectively beside Kale. "Then help us reach my village. We need an old relic." Seren's eyes flickered. "A relic? Describe it." "It's a crystal stone," Lyra explained. "Shaped like a tear. It glows faint blue when touched." Seren gasped quietly. "A star's hard relic. Your village has one." Lyra nodded. "It's been there for generations." Kale looked at Seren urgently. "Will it help me survive?" Seren hesitated, then answered truthfully. "Yes, and no." Kale tensed. "Explain." "The relic will restore your strength," Seren said. "But if the fragment inside you awakens fully, the hunters will sense it instantly. They will come with everything they have." Lyra clenched her fists. "We don't have a choice." Seren studied her, then Kale. "Very well. I will guide you safely to your village." Kale frowned. "Why help us now?" Seren's voice softened. "Because I could not help you before. Let me do so now." Lyra nodded. "Then let's go. Before the hunters find us." They moved quickly across the dunes, Seren walking ahead, their golden glow blending with the moonlight. But halfway to the village, a sudden chill raced through the air. The sand vibrated. Kale stopped abruptly, eyes wide with fear. Seren turned sharply. "What is it?" Kale's voice trembled. "The fragment, it's calling out." Lyra grabbed his arm. "Calling to what?" Kale stared at the sky, where red clouds began swirling directly above them. "To the last star," he whispered. "And the hunters are following the signal." A deep roar echoed through the heavens. Seren's face hardened. "They found us." The sky split open with crimson lightning. Kale clutched his chest as silver light burst from him uncontrollably. Lyra held him tightly. "Kale!" Seren stepped between them and the sky, raising their arms as golden shields formed in front of them. But above them, Descending like a wrathful storm, came 3 Starborn hunters, their armor blazing red.
This time, they were not searching.
They were here to destroy. The sky blazed with red light as the 3 Starborn hunters descended, their armor crackling with energy. They formed a triangle in the air, surrounding Kale, Lyra, and Seren. The sand trembled beneath their weight as they landed, each impact sending a shockwave through the dunes. Seren stepped forward, summoning a golden shield that hovered above them like a dome. The red lightning pounded against it, hissing and crackling, but Seren held steady. Kale, Seren called over the storm, the shield won't last long. We need to move. Kale clutched his chest, struggling to steady his breathing. Silver light leaked between his fingers, pulsing in uneven bursts.
I can't control it, he whispered.
The fragment is pulling toward the sky.
Lyra held onto him firmly.
Kale, stay with me. Focus on my voice.
Kale forced his gaze toward her.
Her eyes were steady despite the chaos around them. Her presence grounded him, even as cosmic forces tugged at him. The lead hunter stepped forward.
Their voice rang through the storm.
Kale of the Silver Core, you carry a memory forbidden to exist. Surrender the fragment, and your extinction will be swift.
Seren's voice cut sharply through the air.
You speak of justice while carrying out the Council's fear. Kale did nothing to deserve this.
The hunter turned their helm toward Seren. Seren of the Golden Path.
You abandoned the Council. Your words carry no weight.
Seren's golden aura intensified.
Maybe not, but my actions will.
The second hunter raised their spear. Move aside, Seren, or fall with him. Lyra felt her heart pound. They were outnumbered, outmatched, and Kale was weakening fast. We need the relic, she said to Seren.
It's the only thing that can stabilize him.
Seren nodded. Then I'll buy us time.
Before Lyra could protest, Seren leapt forward, sending a golden wave of energy crashing toward the hunters. The attack blasted sand into the air and forced the hunters to shield their faces. Lyra!
Seren shouted.
Get Kale to the village. Kale tried to stand without help, but his legs buckled.
Lyra pulled his arm over her shoulders. Come on. We can make it.
The nearest hunter swung their spear to strike, but Seren intercepted with a golden blade, the clash ringing like metal against lightning.
Go! Seren roared.
Lyra dragged Kale away from the battle, stumbling across the dunes toward the dim lights of her village. The wind kicked up sand behind them as Seren fought alone, a lone golden flare against 3 crimson storms.
Kale groaned in pain.
Lyra, the fragment, it's tearing me apart.
She tightened her grip. You're not falling here. Keep going.
They crested a dune, and the village finally came into view, a small cluster of homes glowing softly in the night. Lanterns lined the paths, and smoke drifted from the evening fires. But before Lyra could call out, Kale collapsed to his knees. Kale! Silver light poured from his body, spreading across the sand like a web of thin glowing cracks.
Lyra knelt beside him. What's happening? She asked urgently. Kale's breathing grew ragged.
The fragment, it senses the relic. It's responding, too strongly.
Lyra looked toward her village.
Everything was so close, just a few hundred steps away.
She grabbed Kale's face gently.
Listen to me.
We will reach the relic.
I promise you.
Kale's eyes flickered weakly. Lyra.
I'm afraid.
She held his hand. I know.
But you're not alone.
He nodded slowly.
Behind them, a burst of red light exploded in the dunes. Lyra glanced back and saw Seren thrown into the air by a hunter strike. Golden sparks scattered like tiny suns across the desert.
Seren, Kale whispered. Lyra felt her chest tighten.
We need to help him.
Kale shook his head.
If I go back, they'll kill me.
Seren knew this.
That's why he stayed behind.
Lyra hesitated.
She hated leaving anyone behind, especially someone who had risked everything for them, but she knew Kale was right.
She forced herself to stand. We have to reach the relic first.
Then we help Seren.
Kale nodded weakly.
Lyra pulled him up again, and together they moved toward the village. They crossed the final stretch of dunes, and Lyra called out softly. Mother? Father? Anyone? Her voice echoed through the quiet houses.
The village was unusually silent. Too silent.
As they stepped into the central square, Lyra stopped. The air felt heavy. A strange stillness hung over everything.
Kale's weak voice broke the silence. Something's wrong. Lyra walked slowly past the well, past the stone benches, past the familiar houses. Lights were on, but no one stood outside. No voices, no footsteps, nothing. "Where is everyone?" she whispered. Kale reached out and touched the air. A faint ripple of red energy shimmered. "Hunters were here," he said quietly.
"Recently."
Lyra felt a chill.
"Did they take my people?"
Kale frowned. "Hunters don't take.
"They search or erase."
Lyra's breath hitched. "No."
"No, they wouldn't."
Before she could finish, a whisper floated on the wind.
"Lyra."
She spun around.
An elder of the village stepped out from behind a wall, clutching his arm. His clothes were torn, and a deep cut bled down his shoulder. "Elder Rallos." Lyra rushed to him. "What happened?"
His voice shook.
"Red lights, warriors from the sky, they came searching.
Asking about a relic."
Kale stepped forward unsteadily. "Did they take it?"
Rallos nodded weakly. "They forced open the shrine."
"The relic, the blue crystal, they took it."
Lyra's stomach dropped.
"No, not the relic."
Kale's face went pale.
"Without it, the fragment will consume me."
Rallos reached for Lyra.
"Your parents protected the shrine, they tried to stop them."
Lyra's heart pounded painfully.
"Are they? Where are they?"
Rallos pointed toward the far end of the village.
"They hid in the old storage room. Go, find them." Lyra helped him sit, then turned to Kale with urgency. "We have to find the relic. And my parents."
Kale nodded.
"The hunters must still be close." As they hurried toward the storage building, Kale suddenly froze. "What is it?"
Lyra asked. Kale stared at the sand beneath them. Silver light leaked through the cracks again.
"The fragment is reacting to something nearby," he whispered. "Something strong."
Lyra's eyes widened.
"The relic?"
Kale shook his head slowly. "No," he said.
"Something older."
A cold wind blew through the village.
Then a new voice echoed through the square, deep, resonant, and unfamiliar. "Kale of the Silver Core, you were not meant to survive."
Lyra turned sharply.
A figure stood on the rooftop of the shrine, tall, cloaked in dark starlight, their eyes glowing an icy blue. They radiated power far greater than any hunter.
Kale's breath caught.
"An ascendant," he whispered. "The council sent an ascendant."
Lyra swallowed hard.
"What's an ascendant?" Kale's expression was grim. "A being beyond the hunters. If they are here, the council wants me erased completely." The ascendant raised a hand, and space around them trembled. "You carry a memory that must fade," they said coldly. "Prepare yourself." Lyra stepped in front of Kale instinctively. The ascendant's gaze shifted to her. "You stand in the way of cosmic order, human."
Lyra stood firm.
"I stand with him." The ascendant's eyes narrowed. "Then you stand against the council." And the air exploded with blinding light. The desert winds howled as the three Starborn hunters descended, their crimson armor glowing like molten metal. Their spears crackled with red electricity, each pulse humming with lethal intention. Lyra instinctively stepped closer to Kale, who was struggling to stay upright as silver light flickered uncontrollably from his chest. Seren stepped forward, their golden aura expanding around them like a protective shield. "Stay behind me," Seren said firmly. The lead hunter, taller than the others, landed with a blast that blew dunes outward in a violent wave.
Their voice boomed across the sands.
"Kale of the Silver Core, you cannot run from judgment."
Kale glared weakly.
"I'm done running." "You should have surrendered the fragment," the hunter spat. "Instead, you let it awaken. Now, everything it touches must be cleansed, yourself included."
Lyra stepped in front of Kale before she even realized what she was doing. "You can't just kill him."
"He hasn't done anything wrong." The hunter's helmet tilted slightly, observing her as if she were an insect speaking. "Human," the hunter sneered. "Your life is insignificant. Move aside."
Seren's voice darkened.
"Touch her, and you will answer to me." The hunters turned their attention to Seren.
Recognition flashed between them. "You," one of them growled.
"The traitor who abandoned the council."
Seren's gold aura brightened.
"If loyalty means blind obedience, then yes. I am a traitor." The hunters raised their spears. Lyra felt the air vibrate, full of violent power ready to erupt. Kale stepped forward, using the last of his strength. Silver sparks flared from his body, lighting the sand around them like falling stars. "You want the fragment?"
Kale said hoarsely.
"Then come and take it." The lead hunter launched forward with blinding speed.
But Seren moved faster.
Golden energy burst from their palms, forming a shimmering shield just in time. The hunter's spear struck it, sending shockwaves through the desert.
Sand exploded upward like a geyser.
Lyra stumbled back, shielding her face. Kale grabbed her wrist, steadying her.
Seren gritted their teeth. "Lyra."
"Take Kale and run. I'll hold them off."
"No." Lyra protested.
"We can't leave you." Seren pushed the shield outward, knocking the hunters back. "You must reach the relic. It's the only chance Kale has."
Kale grabbed Seren's arm.
"You'll die." Seren gave him a sad, soft smile.
"I don't fear dying.
I fear losing the last friend I have left." Before Kale could reply, the hunters attacked again, forcing Seren into combat. Kale pulled Lyra in the opposite direction.
"Go. Now."
They ran across the dunes, Seren's golden light flashing behind them as battle erupted. Kale stumbled several times, each time nearly collapsing. Lyra supported him with all her strength. Behind them, the sound of clashing cosmic energy shook the air, red lightning against golden shields.
The village lights grew closer. Only a little farther.
But before they could reach the outskirts, a familiar voice echoed across the desert. "So this is where you've been hiding." Lyra spun around in fear. A fourth hunter stepped out from a ripple in the air, their armor darker than the others, almost black. Kale's knees buckled. "No, not him."
Lyra looked up at the imposing figure. "Who is he?" Kale's voice was barely a whisper. "The High Sentinel.
The strongest of them all." The High Sentinel raised a hand, and all the air around them suddenly tightened, as if the world itself held its breath. "You should not exist anymore," the Sentinel said, pointing a single glowing finger at Kale.
"And you will not." A pulse of red energy shot toward them.
Lyra screamed. Kale pushed her behind him.
Silver light exploded from his chest. Darkness swallowed everything.
Orbit of the Fallen Starborn, Part 6. When Lyra opened her eyes, the world was spinning. Her ears rang, her vision blurred, and she tasted dust in her mouth. She tried to sit up, but her body felt heavy. "Kale?" she whispered weakly. As her vision cleared, she saw him lying a few steps away.
He wasn't moving. "No.
No, no, no." Lyra crawled toward him, her hands shaking.
"Kale.
Wake up." His chest glowed faintly, pulsing like a weak heartbeat. The fragment was still alive, barely.
Footsteps approached.
The High Sentinel emerged from the cloud of dust, unscathed. His armor radiated a cold, merciless light. "You cannot protect him," he said. "The fragment he carries is too dangerous to remain in any world."
Lyra stood up, trembling. "Why?"
"What is the fragment? Why destroy it?" The Sentinel paused, as if choosing whether she deserved an answer. "The last star died carrying forbidden knowledge," he said. "Knowledge that cost an entire civilization its existence. That memory survived inside the fragment Kale now carries."
Lyra's eyes widened.
"So you're killing him to erase the truth?" "To prevent the universe from falling into the same fate," the Sentinel corrected coldly.
"Truth can be a weapon."
The last star's memory brought ruin once. It will not happen again. Lyra clenched her fists. "That doesn't give you the right to murder him." The Sentinel tilted his head.
"Rights are irrelevant.
Survival is the only rule that matters."
He raised his hand toward Kale.
A sphere of red energy formed. Lyra stepped in front of Kale, spreading her arms wide. "If you want to kill him," she said, her voice steady despite the fear shaking inside her, "you'll have to kill me first." The Sentinel studied her in silence. "You do not understand what he is," he said.
"I don't care," Lyra replied. "He's alive."
"That's enough." For the first time, the High Sentinel hesitated. And then, a blinding burst of golden light slashed across the dunes. Seren appeared between them, battered, bleeding gold, but still standing.
"Stay away from them," Seren growled. The Sentinel narrowed his eyes. "Seren, you survived."
"Barely," Seren said. "Your hunters are stronger than I remember." The High Sentinel lowered his sphere of energy.
"Step aside."
I will not kill you if you surrender, Kale.
Seren shook their head.
You will have to kill me too.
The sentinels sighed as if bored.
If that is your wish. Red lightning erupted from his hand.
Seren countered with a golden shield. The clash shook the desert like a thunderstorm. Behind them, Kale groaned weakly. Lyra knelt beside him. Kale.
Stay with me.
He opened his eyes slowly. Lyra. I'm sorry. I can't stop them.
You don't have to, Lyra whispered fiercely. We just need to reach the relic.
Kale shook his head. I can't move. She gripped his hand.
Then I'll help you. He looked at her, pain clouding his eyes. Why do you fight so hard for me?
Lyra's voice cracked.
Because someone has to. Another explosion of cosmic energy erupted behind them. Seren was being pushed back, golden light cracking under red force.
Kale struggled to rise.
He'll kill her.
I won't let him, Lyra whispered. She helped Kale to his feet.
He leaned heavily on her, barely able to stand. The village was close, only a few hundred steps.
But the High Sentinels saw them moving.
Enough, he growled. He blasted Seren aside with a surge of red energy and strode toward Lyra and Kale. Seren tried to stand, but collapsed to their knees.
Kale's breathing turned ragged.
Lyra, run.
But she refused to let go of him.
The High Sentinel approached slowly, confidently, raising his spear toward them.
When suddenly, the village relic in the distance flared to life.
A beam of pale blue light shot upward into the sky like a beacon. Kale gasped, clutching his chest as the fragment inside him pulsed violently.
Lyra stared at the glowing village.
The relic, she whispered. It's responding to you.
Kale's eyes widened in terror and awe.
It's not just a relic, he said. It's calling the fragment home. The High Sentinel halted mid-step.
No, he breathed. Not that relic. Not here. Seren looked up weakly.
You know what it is?
The Sentinel's voice darkened. Yes.
And if Kale reaches it, the last star will awaken.
Lyra stared at Kale.
What happens if it awakens?
Kale's voice trembled.
It could save the universe.
He swallowed.
Or destroy it. The relic's light intensified, casting long shadows across the desert. The High Sentinel lowered his spear, eyes burning red-hot. I will not allow the last star to rise again.
He lunged toward them.
The hunters descended like falling comets, their red armor streaking across the sky as they landed in a sweeping arc around Kale, Lyra, and Seren. The sand beneath their feet turned molten from the heat of their weapons. Lyra stumbled back, barely keeping Kale upright. Seren stepped forward, golden shield shimmering around their arms. Stay behind me, they warned. Kale gritted his teeth, clutching his chest as the fragment pulsed violently. Seren, don't fight them alone. You're no match for three.
Seren's eyes glowed fiercely.
I will hold them long enough for you two to escape.
Lyra grabbed Kale's arm tightly.
We can't leave you.
But Seren didn't respond.
They advanced. The first hunter thrust forward with a lance of red energy. Seren blocked it with a golden shield that cracked on impact. The second fired a bolt of crimson light that detonated the sand near Seren's feet. The third jumped high, spear aimed downward. Seren raised both arms. A dome of golden light erupted around them, shielding Kale and Lyra. The hunters' blows smashed into the dome, sending shockwaves through the desert. Kale collapsed to his knees. Seren, stop. You'll burn your core out. Seren strained, their face twisting with effort. If I fall, then at least you two will reach the relic. Lyra looked helplessly at Kale. Kale, we have to go. Seren can't hold them forever.
Kale looked up, fear in his starry eyes.
I can't run, not like this.
Lyra set her jaw.
Then lean on me again. Kale hesitated only a moment before nodding. Seren shouted without turning back. Head for the village, now. Lyra dragged Kale across the dunes. The golden dome above flickered with each heavy impact. Hunters roared commands to each other, their voices sharp and metallic. Kale looked back once. Seren stood alone, struggling to keep the dome intact. Light poured from them in brilliant waves. She's sacrificing herself, he whispered. Lyra tightened her grip on him. Then we won't let it be for nothing. Behind them, a thunderous crack split the night. The dome shattered. Golden shards burst into the air like fragments of broken sunlight.
Seren cried out as the force flung them across the sand. Kale's heart dropped. Seren. But the hunters didn't pause. They surged forward again, weapons raised, determination burning like wildfire. Lyra forced Kale to keep moving. Her legs trembled, but she did not stop. They reached the final dune overlooking her village. The small cluster of mud and stone homes glowed softly under lantern light, peaceful and unaware of the storm racing toward them. Kale took a painful breath. We made it, but the hunters are close. We must get the relic quickly. Lyra nodded, fear squeezing her chest. Follow me. And together, they ran toward the village, toward the only hope Kale had left. Lyra's village was asleep, bathed in the soft glow of lanterns and moonlight. Dogs barked as she and Kale stumbled into the main square, but no one emerged from the homes. Most people slept deeply in these quiet desert hours. Kale leaned heavily on her. His glow was almost gone. Where is the relic? Lyra pointed toward a small stone building near the center of the village. The Hall of Ancients. The elders keep it locked inside. Kale nodded. Take me there. They hurried toward the hall. Its stone walls were carved with old symbols, spirals, stars, and patterns Lyra never understood. But when Kale saw them, his eyes widened. These markings, he whispered. They are not human. Lyra froze. What do you mean not human? They've been here for hundreds of years. Kale traced a trembling hand over the carvings. These are pre-Starborn symbols. Ancient. Your ancestors, they must have found the relic long ago. Before they could examine further, footsteps echoed behind them. Lyra. They spun around. Elder Renan, a thin old man with a white beard and tired eyes, stood holding a lantern. Child, what are you doing out here? And who is this stranger? Lyra swallowed. Elder Renan, I need the relic. The star crystal. Please, it's urgent. Renan frowned. That relic is sacred. It cannot be touched. Kale stepped forward, though barely standing. His voice trembled but carried ancient weight. Elder, that relic could save my life. Without it, I will die. And if I die, the hunters will bring ruin upon your village. Renan stared at him, eyes narrowing. You are not human. Lyra quickly moved between them. He's not here to harm us. Please, Elder. There's no time. Renan hesitated. Then the earth shuddered violently. A red beam slashed across the sky, cutting clouds open like fabric. A hunter descended at the edge of the village. Renan's lantern slipped from his hand. What in the name of the sands? Kale leaned on Lyra. Elder, please. Renan turned toward the Hall of Ancients. His voice was shaky. Very well. Come. He hurried inside, Lyra and Kale following. The hall was dim, lit only by moonlight pouring through carved holes in the ceiling. At the far end stood a pedestal holding a blue crystal shaped like a tear. It glowed faintly, just as Lyra had described. Kale gasped. A relic from the first light. Renan unlocked the pedestal with trembling hands. Take it. If it saves us from those monsters, take it. Kale reached forward with shaky fingers. The moment his hand touched the crystal, a shockwave of silver and blue light exploded outward. Lyra shielded her eyes. Elder Renan fell to his knees. Kale cried out, pain and energy surging through him as the relic awakened. It rose from his hand, floating between him and Lyra. Silver light from Kale's chest and blue light from the relic intertwined like threads of cosmic fire. Lyra watched in awe. Kale, what's happening? Kale gritted his teeth. It's accepting me, merging with the fragment inside my core. The building shook. Outside, a hunter roared as it sensed the surge. But Lyra didn't look away. She stared at Kale as his glow intensified. His hair brightened like falling stardust. His skin shimmered with constellations. For the first time since falling to Aurellia, Kale looked like a Starborn again. But the relic was not finished. With a burst of light, it shot into Kale's chest, merging completely. Kale collapsed, gasping. Lyra rushed to him. Kale. Are you okay? Kale opened his eyes. They glowed fully, bright, silver, alive. I'm restored, but... He looked toward the sky, his expression darkening. They are coming. All of them. Outside, village bells clanged wildly as more red beams tore across the sky. The full wrath of the Starborn Council had arrived, the village erupted in chaos.
Doors burst open as families ran outside, alarmed by the crimson lights streaking across the sky.
Children cried.
Animals bolted from their pens.
Panic rippled through the desert air. Lyra held Kale tightly.
We have to protect the village.
Kale shook his head.
If the hunters attack, no one here will survive.
We must draw them away.
Before Lyra could argue, a thunderous impact shook the ground. Sand sprayed across rooftops as a hunter landed in the center of the village square, taller, stronger, and more heavily armored than the others.
Its armor glowed with deeper crimson. Its spear was twice the size.
Its presence pressed on the village like a crushing weight.
Kale's voice trembled. That's not an ordinary hunter.
That's a high sentinel.
Lyra's heart stopped.
What does that mean?
Kale's answer was grim.
It means they are no longer trying to capture me.
He met her eyes.
They are here to wipe the village off the map. The high sentinel raised its spear. Red lightning crackled around it. Villagers screamed and scattered. Kale stepped forward, but stumbled. Lyra grabbed him. You're strong again, but not strong enough to fight that.
Kale looked at his shaking hands.
I have power again, but not fully.
I need time to stabilize.
No time, Lyra whispered.
The high sentinel turned toward them.
It lifted its spear, aimed directly at the Hall of Ancients. Kale pushed Lyra behind him.
Get down.
The spear unleashed a blast of crimson energy. Kale threw up both hands, silver energy bursting from his palms.
The collision shook the entire village.
Crimson and silver light clashed, exploding in a wave that shattered walls and sent sand spiraling into the sky. Lyra crawled to Kale.
Kale.
He trembled violently, barely holding back the sentinel's attack. The silver energy around him flickered unstable, like a flame fighting to stay alive. The sentinel stepped forward, pushing its spear harder. Kale's knees buckled. I can't hold it.
Lyra grabbed his arm.
Yes, you can. You're not alone.
Her touch sent a jolt through Kale.
The fragment inside him pulsed, responding not to danger, but to her.
Kale gasped as power surged through him.
Silver energy erupted outward, overpowering the sentinel's blast and sending the massive hunter sliding backward across the sand.
Kale collapsed, panting.
The sentinel steadied itself, furious.
More hunters landed around it, surrounding the village entirely. Lyra looked at Kale desperately.
Kale, what do we do?
Kale struggled to stand.
I have an idea.
He pointed toward the tallest dune outside the village. Take me there.
If I can reach high ground, I might channel the relic's full power.
Lyra nodded instantly.
Then we go. Elder Renan appeared suddenly, eyes wide with fear.
Take the back path, behind the granary. The dunes are accessible from there. Kale bowed his head.
Thank you, Elder.
Renan gripped Lyra's shoulders. Go, child.
Save our home.
Lyra didn't waste a second.
She helped Kale toward the path as villagers scattered and hunters advanced.
But just as they reached the granary,
a voice echoed from the sky.
Cold, stern, ancient.
Kale of the Silver Core.
You defy the council.
Surrender.
Lyra froze.
Kale's entire body went rigid. A figure descended slowly from the clouds.
Clad in white armor marked with silver sigils. Kale's face paled.
No, not him. Lyra whispered. Who is that?
Kale's voice shook with fear and sorrow.
That is Archon, High Warden of the Starborn Council.
The Warden of Cosmic Law. The strongest of them all. And he had come for Kale personally.